How's it going, everyone? This is MindBlank and welcome back to my channel. Finally, right? Well, I know some of you are curious what's up with me not uploading anything in 3 weeks, but I won't bore each and every one of you with the details, so if you want to find out more, check my pinned comment below. I've been postponing this video for some time and you'll see why in a second, but today I'm building and testing a budget ITX system that will take on ultrawide 1080p 2560 by 1080. Right, so reasons for me postponing this, unrelated to the upload pause, are 100% tied with the huge Radeon GPU prices. It's still not the time for a budget build, considering that 2 months ago the PC part picker list, you can find in the description by the way, was at $570 on the nose without an optional CPU cooler, we'll get to that later, and 5 days ago, when the Sapphire Pulse ITX RX 570 came back in stock, the price of the build was $940. Absolutely incredible. As of this video's release, it's still a completely unrealistic $890, but I can't flag this build as anything but a true $550 to $600 budget one. When I reviewed the Sapphire RX 570 Pulse ITX, it was $170, the cheapest RX 570 out there. It is now $270 more, a whole aftermarket RX 580 MSRP away. But for anyone watching this after prices have reverted back to normal, this was just a bad dream, but I had to address the elephant in the room. This Pentium G4560 based build will stay with me as is, and I just want to be upfront that I've deviated from the build in the PC part picker list, but not in a way that would affect the final performance of this PC in any way. I will be detailing what's different in my version of the PC for each part, but even if you choose the exact parts there, you're going to see the same performance numbers I'll be showing later in the video. So let's start with the motherboard. Noticed anything strange, like the Z170 chipset for a completely locked CPU? Well, in my Truth About Ryzen and Fast RAM video, I tackled this very subject, the strange pairing of Intel parts, locked CPUs with high-performance Z chipsets, and the reverse. Let me explain what's going on and why I am doing exactly the opposite of what I was stating in that video. I was about to get the MSI H270 board in the PC part picker list, but I noticed an extremely low price for this open package Asus Z170 board. The catch, however, for getting this at an excellent price, well below the H270 MSI board, was that it was completely devoid of any accessories, just the bare board, not even the Wi-Fi antennas, which I got for $5 a pair. Since this Z170 board would allow me using higher than 2400 MHz RAM, unlike an H or B series board, I will be running my RAM at 2400 MHz for testing for consistency's sake. Since I've spoken about RAM earlier, the build was supposed to use 16GB of 2400 MHz Team Group RAM, and it ended up using what I had free, provided by Team Group, their high-performance Extreme Series B-Die IC's 3600 MHz CL18 Bad Boy RAM. I will be switching this RAM kit to another, more expensive build, and will give you guys a review on the sticks meanwhile, complete with Ryzen RAM testing, but for now they're in the ITX build running at 2400 MHz CL15. And for the GPU, I already mentioned the Sapphire Pulse ITX RX 570, which I've reviewed already on the channel and found to be a great little card, with impressive for the size, cooling, noise footprint, and decent build quality. The case, also reviewed on the channel, is a small ITX cube from Spire, which I've waited for so long. Like I said in the review, it has its compromises, but I still think it's extremely pretty and cute. Also, for $25 and 2 acrylic panels plus decent build quality, you can't get any better. I know this is hard to get in some parts of the world. I ordered mine from China, and that's why in the build list you'll find a Cooler Master Elite 120, another cube case with less compromises, similar price tag, but not such a great looker in my opinion. And for the SSD, I used the Blitzwolf 120GB drive I got a while ago, and I promised back then that I keep you guys updated on the reliability of this drive, and so far it's been rock solid, okay read performance, kinda slow write performance, but I still enjoy the black look, although it's completely obstructed in this build by the reverse drive mount on the chassis. And I know some of you will kill me for this, but it's the only budget PSU I had available, the Corsair VS 550 New Edition. I specifically wanted to mention the new in the name, also like Corsair does it, since it seems it's miles better than the old version. Well, personally I had no issues with it so far, and I gave you another option for a decent budget PSU in the PC part picker list anyway. Now for cooling, I did go ahead and use the Noctua NHL9i low profile cooler. I thought the box cooler for the Pentium G4560 will be loud as hell, but it turned out to be very quiet with temperatures under 60 Celsius during load. It seems that after all, aftermarket CPU cooling on the G4560 is completely optional in my opinion, and you can save some bucks here. I anyway ended up using the NHL9i since it's even quieter than the stock heatsink and temperatures are obviously better by around 10 Celsius or so. I did find the mounting system on it a little more difficult than something like the NH-D15 and D15S coolers I've been using so frequently, but what can you expect from a low profile cooler though? Anyway, this is a great heatsink and build quality is amazing as always with Noctua. I also wanted to use an 80mm Noctua fan to have better airflow, but it's impossible to fit in there even if it would be low profile, which this isn't. Honestly, I don't know what Spire were thinking here since it severely obstructs the motherboard CPU power anyway. And this wraps up the build. I actually had an easy time installing everything despite the size, with only some issues with the wire management, but did manage to hide the cables in the end so that everything looks okay. A modular PSU would have been awesome, but let's not forget this is a budget build and modular is not that cheap. We are going to take a look at some game benchmarks now and titles that will emphasize both CPU and GPU since we are testing an entire system after all. By the way, I am running the RX 570 at bone stock, the way Sapphire gives it to you out of the box. And I do think that the weak link here is the G4560 CPU, but for the price this is still an amazing processor, at least until AMD gives us some options in this price range too. So I benchmarked at 2560 by 1080 Ultra settings unless otherwise specified, and will also show you guys some frame time analysis graphs for each game. I wouldn't read too much in these frame times since it's still a dual core hyperthreading enabled CPU, and I won't be too rough on the way they look on a $600 budget PC. The bottom line is that I did find the RX 570 was held back by the CPU in some titles, like in Mass Effect Andromeda for example, where switching to high settings yielded almost no performance uplift. The RX 570 is clearly capable of higher frame rates here, but the CPU is simply not fast enough. Under 50 FPS makes this style very playable though, so it's still okay. On the other hand, I found Prey to perform very well on this system with high frame rates and a smooth experience. Frame times weren't that bad as compared to BF1 for example or Mass Effect, and general performance was good just like for GTA 5, which isn't pushing above 60 FPS, but I am testing in the crowded part of the city, so the CPU is kinda struggling here. Dirt 4 also runs pretty okay on the system, although the forest area is very choppy, again due to the capabilities of the Pentium G4560 CPU, and this despite frame rates in the high 50s. The Witcher 3 also provided decent performance even on ultra settings, but I did manage to break the 60 FPS barrier only with high settings. The frame time analysis is seeing some frequent spikes due to probably being CPU limited, but again the game felt okay, a smooth experience especially when coupled with a FreeSync monitor. My only and true disappointment in all these games is Overwatch. Although pushing 100 plus FPS on Ultra, in heavy fights I was seeing dips to low 40s, which would completely make my aim suck. Again, I know it's not the RX 570 since I've been using this ITX card on my Ryzen 1600X system and never dipped below a capped 90 FPS. Anyway, this concludes the performance part, and I have to say that the G4560 and RX 570, if the 570 had down to earth prices again, is an awesome combo. I expected less to be honest, but I wouldn't mind gaming on the system on ultra-wide 1080p for one bit. With the sole exception of Overwatch, since I'm an avid fan and those dips were a killer for me. But playing Prey, GTA 5 and even BF1 multiplayer felt okay, and that's what matters. I was seeing some uncomfortable high 40s dips in BF1 during large explosions, but for the most part this is a very potent budget ITX build. It's just a shame for those still asininely high GPU prices. Guys and gals, we've reached the end of this video, but before I go, I really want to see your versions of a budget ITX ultrawide system, so leave those in the comments down below alongside your questions and suggestions. Don't forget to check out my Twitter and Patreon pages linked in the description, and thank you for supporting this channel by subscribing. See you next time everybody, bye bye.